Welcome to episode 23, an interview with Jonathan Roth and Paulina Suarez. Jonathan is the author and illustrator of Rover and Speck, This Planet Rocks, and Paulina is the colorist for this kid's graphic novel.
This went really well. I really enjoyed this interview, and I liked learning the process.
Yeah, they're
Between
two
these two.
lovely people, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a really nice conversation.
Yeah.
And we talked about the process of how to submit a graphic novel, how they found their agents, and
How they collaborated together, how they worked together as far as the colorist and him as with him illustrating.
Yeah, so a lot of very good advice in this episode. Enjoy.
Yeah. Welcome to Illo Chat. Oh, we have more than 2 people.
Hello.
Hello.
So welcome, Jonathan and Paulina. Is Jonathan Roth and Paulina Suarez. You're in Mexico, ¿verdad?
I am in Mexico. Yeah, I am in Querétaro. So.
And Jonathan, you are in
Rockville, Maryland.
Jonathan, I am from Michigan, and I read in your bio that you're from Detroit, Michigan. I'm from Marquette, Michigan.
Yep, I guess I'm Detroit born and bred. I've been in Maryland probably most of my adult life now.
Yeah, well, same. Well, I was in Germany for like 13 years, and then we moved to Maryland. We've been here like 10 years. So yeah, I didn't stay in Michigan. My family's there though. It's cold. A lot colder than here. So
I'm glad we were able to get everybody in one place, even though we had to figure out the timing a little bit. It wasn't too bad. 1 hour.
It's 1 hour away, so it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, when I started working with you, I was surprised. I guess I've never been to Mexico City. I didn't realize it was only an hour time difference from like the East Coast. Because I think of it as being very, further west.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Detroit, like we were talking about. Like I think that's like an hour difference. So I don't think of Detroit and Mexico City being. I know time zones are very big and wonky and all that kind of stuff.
See, it wasn't that bad. So.
We also have a connection here that Jonathan, Paulina, and I have the same agent.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
hi, Natalie.
Hey.
Yay. Which is very weird, right? Like, I don't know, like there's not really a conversation behind scenes or anything like that, but we're all kind of in the same house. So
yeah,
I like that. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Small world.
Adoptive siblings. We want to start asking about your journey, your background, how you got to your art journey in a snapshot. Whether you want to talk about your illustration journey or your writing journey or both. How did you get here in this time? Did you go to school? And whatever classes you had to take, however your journey, because some people have a straight line and others do what we have done, going around in circles.
Who has a straight line? I've never seen that.
Very true, very true. The lucky ones, I would say.
Yeah.
So you can pick whoever wants to answer first, and we'll go from there.
Jonathan, you can go first.
Okay. My journey began with one step. Well, like we're talking about, I was from Detroit, Michigan. I grew up, I was an art kid and all that. And luckily I was from an artistic household. My mother's a painter, and I got it in my mind. I wanted to go away to art school in New York City. So I, applied to some of the schools there. Luckily, I got a scholarship to Cooper Union, if you've heard of it. It's just a great art school. So I went away, left home, went to Cooper Union. And at least at that time, it was a very, serious fine art school. I mean, it still is, I guess. So I left Cooper Union, very serious artist in a sophisticated city. So what did I want to do? I wanted to do comics, something very unserious and sophisticated. I'd always been drawn to, I always loved comics and cartoons and all that. So I started doing some cartooning for adults. More like alternative press, free weeklies, those kind of publications. I probably sold a few hundred cartoons, like some were on a weekly basis, some were just freelance. So But while that was going on, I also really wanted to make picture books for kids. That was like, I was really driven to do that. So I started, researching what went into making picture books. To kind of date myself, this was so long ago, probably like late 90s, early 2000s, that when we made picture book dummies back then for submission, we had to go to Kinko's, if you remember that, and make photocopies. And I'd actually spray mount, like I'd make a physical dummy and spray mount, the pages into the dummy. And then we'd have to go something called the post office and with a self-addressed stamped envelope when you wanted to submit things. So I started submitting picture books, a long time ago. I guess
it was another world.
A pricey one too, because you had to make a copy for each editor that you're going to send.
Right, but you were also more select. Like, luckily, the World Children's Book was much more selective back then, which was not like you couldn't like put 100 agents and like that are appropriate not, and then just hit send. So you had to be more targeted, which I think was probably a good thing. And there were slush piles back then because of that. Anyway, so I started submitting picture books at the same time. Obviously, cartooning, all that stuff didn't pay the rent or anything, so I became an art teacher, and I've been doing that. I guess this is my 24th year teaching public school art here in Maryland.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's big.
Thank you. Even this, coming onto Zoom, it's kind of re-stimulating because because we were online for like a year plus, and I don't Zoom much anymore. But like, it reminds me of like just the whole process of like going on to, not that it was the worst thing in the world, but it just like really brings back that time, that year. Where was I? Oh yeah, so teaching, I was submitting, I was getting rejections, of course. But I also wanted to write. I know we're an Illo group, but I
we both write too.
Yeah.
I wanted to write like actually novels, like longer stuff, and that's what first got me an agent. Actually, some of my middle grade novels, and some of those almost got published. I had the kind of things where it gets as far as an acquisition meeting or something, but maybe didn't make it. So I don't know. I tried that for a number of years. So picture books, middle grade novels. What ended up finally selling was a chapter book series, which I wrote because I almost like gave up. You write and you write and you try and it's so competitive that I was just like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to write something just silly that won't be for sale. And of course, that's the thing that sold. That's the one that
funny how things work out.
So my second agent, Natalie, who we love. So she sold this is called Beep and Bob. It's like a chapter book series.
How many are in that series?
4.
Yeah, that's so much work.
So I wrote, here's the 4-in-1. Ooh, so shiny.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So this has it's mostly writing, but it has black and white like spot illustrations. That's focusing. I don't know.
There
there
is
you go.
Yeah, we can see it.
Much more text heavy, even though they're only like 10,000 words or so.
How many do you know how many on the average how many spots you do for each book in those?
I think it was probably around 25. So not even like every page, every couple spreads,
we should say for the podcast listeners, Jonathan is holding this
very
chunky book. How many pages is that?
This is, I don't know, 400 plus.
So but that's the combination of his 4 books.
Yeah,
this
one.
This is
and the series is called Beep and Bob, right? I always want to say Beep and Bob, but I know it's Beep and Bob.
Yeah, Beep and Bob. Yeah. Oh, so this, and I even brought Beep to be part of the
cute.
I definitely have a question about that. He's holding now is it crochet? It is
crochet. I did not make this. In fact, it was a surprise. It was a gift at one of my talks. Like,
that's cool. That's
a young fan's mother made it and like surprised me. It's like, so it's the only one. Can't buy in stores, unfortunately.
Wow.
So it's a stuffed animal of his, or a crocheted stuffed robot of his main characters, or one of his main character.
No, and the other one's in the pocket. How cute!
This one's an alien. Yeah. So this
is an alien. Okay.
So that's the Bob is the human character, and then
Beep.
Beep is like the little alien.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cute.
That series.
That's so sweet.
That was very lovely.
So that was
seriously.
so I guess that's how those were my first like children's books. This was a couple years before, COVID and all that. So there were 4 in that series, and then
and Jonathan, don't mind me asking, how many years did it take to get out 4 books? And did you sign on as a series when you first submitted, or?
yeah, it was signed. It was a contract for 4 books,
Okay.
and they all came out within the same calendar year, believe it or not.
Oh my goodness.
So I know it was wild. It was I guess all 2018. They started in March, and the last one came out in December, and then
Wow.
the box set and all that stuff came later. But yeah, so they put them out really fast, and
Oh,
they want they're thin, so they want to get a little more shelf space.
yeah.
So I was working on at any given point, like at least 2 or 3 at the various stages at the same time. Could be like the editing or the rough illustrations or the final. Now again, they're just spot and they're black and white. So we'll obviously talk much more about color. Yeah, we'll get to the color.
But that's still, if you had 20 per book, that's still like 80 spots that you had to do probably within what, like a 6-month, 8-month time period.
Something like that. Yeah.
You're teaching and doing other things.
Working full time, yeah.
Was that traditional, or were you inking paper?
It was. I guess they all started as pencil sketches, and I scanned them, and then they were all digital.
Okay.
We're all finished digitally. Well, that's the other thing. I was teaching myself at that point. I was kind of new to the digital illustration world too. So I was kind of having to learn that on the fly, which is good that it was just black and white. Because again, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Because back in when I was in art school, I mean, there was no such even thing as digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we were learning. The last year that I was there, I think we started digital illustration. it was painter learning. Yeah. Now it's amazing. Yeah. So you are kind of like a lucky kid. It wasn't too windy. You had a good journey there. Success.
Well, it felt very windy. I mean, especially because I was trying different. I was cartooning. I tried to get syndicated as a cartoonist at one point, and was in talk with the syndicate. So, and I was a photographer, and I mean, there's I left out a lot of stuff. So it felt very windy, and it felt like it took a long time.
Well, you graduated in, what did you say, 19 in the late 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then your first book was published in 2018. So
right.
So it is there was quite a span of figuring it out and figuring out where you fit, and
going through a couple agents and going through like middle grade novels and all kinds of so it felt very windy. And I mean, if there's a point of this, what I want people to get out of this is like, it is very windy, or there's no like, and you just have to be persistent. I mean, some people, I guess, do luck out. I don't know if you call that like the straight journey, where someone does become published like right out of, but most of us have many more rejections than anything else.
Yeah. It's so good to hear that, though, because usually you just hear people's story from debut book and on. You don't hear the backstory.
Yeah, we do hear, but there is one thing to say that but is the successful person is the one that tried one more time. Let's move to Paulina with the same question. If you want to tell us your art journey to where you are now.
Well, yeah, I was a really creative kid, and I loved drawing. I was lucky enough to have a grandfather who was also really creative, and he would encourage me to draw and do artsy stuff, and he always cheered me up, and it's like, yay. He was really encouraging, and I think I owe my creativity to him. So I didn't think of art as a career, because here in Mexico and back then it was just, I always thought, big painters like Frida Kahlo or Diego Rivera are really special, and who's gonna I thought ordinary people never studied art. So it wasn't until I graduated from business school, I did a marketing degree. And I thought it was really boring. I wasn't into it. So I started researching art schools, but in the States, because in Mexico there were only, because I wanted to do illustration for picture books. So in Mexico at that time there was no choice, or only fine arts schools and printmaking, classical. Anyway, so I also applied for New York uh, art schools, and because I didn't have any portfolio or anything, I got rejected.
Oh.
And then I found the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and they didn't ask for a portfolio. So I started researching more and talked to my parents, and they were really excited. So I went to study there, and it was the most amazing experience. It was like yeah, I turned upside down my world for everything I knew. I found good friends who love, geeky friends who love drawing and talk about color, and just this, talk about animation and photography, and oh,
I'm
I don't
getting
know, this
goosebumps.
yeah, this geeky stuff. So anyway, so I went there to study picture books, but then I got, oh gosh, I love animation, I love acrylics, I love digital. So I kind of went crazy and lost my target, so to
I got
speak.
you. Yeah.
So I came back to Mexico after graduating, and I started working in animation studios here for background design. And I
Oh.
really love that work too. But then at some point I said, okay, so I went to study picture books. So now I want to again, like, go for that target, and that's when I went to a conference for SCDWR, but it was an online because of COVID. Because before I didn't have, maybe the resources to go to the States and, attend to the
Right.
conference. And that's how I met Natalie, our agent.
Oh, you
And
did.
yeah, we've been working in writing and also polishing my portfolio. So it's been quite a journey too, to get to that level and then start applying, sending out my ideas. So yeah, it's been cool, but yeah, it just takes so much time that sometimes we just want it now. But it takes time.
Patience is, I was talking about persistence, but obviously patience is the other one you need in this industry. Patience and persistence. Yeah.
I agree.
I love how you said that you lost your target and you had to go and find it, because that happens so much to all of us, right? It's like there's so many shiny things, and what do we do? They all sound awesome and cool, and then that you went back and you said, okay, hold on, I got to refocus. That's where I wanted to go in the first place. That's pretty cool.
See, but also I it's like, yeah, that's your target, but also it takes so much time to make a picture book that you cannot only be that, right? So you have to still be, background designer or freelance teacher or anything.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to jump to another question that I had reserved for later on, but because you tapped on it now, and the whole thing of finding our agent, you said you found your agent, Natalie, in the SCBWI. So I want to ask both of you, if you feel comfortable, about how did you find Jonathan, your first agent, and then your second agent, and how in the conference, because I also I got signed in with Natalie, who's my first agent, and hopefully my only one, because I love her. I really do. Also at an SCBWI conference, I had signed up for the, what is that? The Illustrator portfolio showcase, and she contacted me through that. how was it with you all? If you can, because everybody wants to know, like, how did you get your agent? That's like, is there like a magical way of doing so? So I don't know if you want, Jonathan, since you had two, if you want to go first too.
Well, again, my first agent, I get SEBWI conference. That's where I met them. So folks listening, if you're trying to get into children's books, it's a good organization just to make connections. So that's important.
Oh yeah.
And she was a great agent and everything, but nothing ever sold. And she was growing her agency, and I kind of get the feeling that I was a little bit of a back burner at that point. And the thing about agents is that they become your whole conduit to the industry. So your agent has to be like, it's almost like you're married to them, and they have to be like totally into you, even though they have like 30 other husbands or wives or whatever. So
that's a
That's a great analogy.
really act like
yes.
they're into you.
Yeah.
And anyway, I just kind of had a sense, she wasn't answering emails so timely or whatever. And again, she had, for whatever reason, I decided I had to like branch out and try to find someone else. And the correct way to do it in the industry is you have to leave an agent before you start searching. I mean, I know some people don't, but I wanted to do it the correct way. So I actually terminated our agreement, which was super hard because, it's so hard to find in the first place.
And scary, I would think, because
Yeah.
you have something kind of sure, and then you just give it up. I think that takes courage to just.
It was at times, it's one of those things where you jump and then you're like, oh no, I tried to come back. What did I do? Because then I was lost, for a while, or it took a while. In fact, Natalie, she requested, so one of those middle grade manuscripts, she might not even remember this, but she requested a full, or whatever it's called, where she wanted to read the whole thing. And then I think she eventually rejected it. So she didn't give me an offer. But here, another important lesson: never burn your bridges in this industry, because it's very easy to take it personally. Like, oh no, they rejected me. Like you get so many rejections, you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rather than even take it personally, take it as like encouragement. So like when I was ready to start shopping around this chapter book series, I kind of remembered her as like, oh, she was interested in my other thing. She got my sense of humor and all that. So I would reapply to her. The problem was she was on maternity leave. And so I think I had it on my calendar, like, send it to this Natalie person, when she becomes available, which I think I did. And then I was on vacation, I remember, and I didn't check. I don't think I had a phone. I didn't even have a cell phone. This made 2015. I was kind of late to I don't know. I didn't check email that week or whatever. And then when I got back, I was kind of, lazily going through email, and I saw she wanted to, I think, represent me or something. And so it was about 5 days, like you can imagine, because you 10 minutes later, you write back saying, oh, okay, I'll. And I think it was like 5 days later, I was like, oh no, did I blow it? Oh, no. So then that's when we developed the Beep and Bob thing. And it actually sold pretty quickly to Aladdin, Simon & Schuster. And, yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Well, how did you hear about her though? Did you find her?
I'm trying to remember. That was not, I think at that point it was just
stumbled on her.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. So it wasn't at a conference, I don't think, but I think she spoke at conferences, so at some point you start hearing names and all that. And she was with a different agency then, but she's now with Irene Goodman, as are we all, I guess.
Yeah, for me it was different. My friend gave me as a gift the book for SCBWI. They have actual copy.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's a big book.
Yeah, but she gave me that book back then, like I think 2011. But because I was into animation, I didn't actually, started sending anything. But I when I said, okay, I want to do picture books, so I checked the book and I started mailing postcards to a lot of, publishers and agents. but I wasn't getting any, replies or emails. So then I started querying to agents, but I was also getting lots of rejections. So I went into the 2020 SCBWI summer conference.
Same year. I love
Yeah,
it.
I think we were at the same time
Yeah.
there. So I put up my illustrations, and that's how Natalie found me. She found me, and I was really excited because I think my style is not super commercial, and it's not super, mm, that yeah, commercial style. I have different, I don't know, imaginary. So I was really excited that she was into my stuff, and she was excited for it, and we started talking, and that's how we signed, and we've been, working together since then.
That's very cool.
That was a productive year.
It
Yeah.
was, it was. I know it kind of shut the whole world down, but some things did happen. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
I
In some
agree.
ways, it was awesome in some ways.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it opened up this whole Zoom thing, which helped a lot of people that usually you would not have been at that conference. I would,
Oh, true.
so it
Yeah.
opened. I would not have been at that conference, maybe either. I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah,
Mhm.
it gave opportunities where usually it weren't there.
I agree.
So now, I guess now that we went into how you both have the same agent, now we can talk about how did you come together to work on this book. Because you both submitted together. I that's what we want to know. So the book that we're here to, by the way, congratulations on the
Oh yeah,
because the
hold up, you
launch
can hold
was
up your book, Jen.
very recent, wasn't it? Like last week you launched
Just came out 1 week ago. Yep.
1 week
It's
ago.
In the world. Yes.
Called Rover and Spec.
Rover and
Wait,
Spec.
This Planet Rocks. Can you? Oh well, could
Rover
Jonathan
and
just
Spec, This
tell us a
Planet
little bit
Rocks.
about his book, maybe?
Yeah, please. Like give us the elevator pitch that you would give someone.
Elevator pitch. I have an agent, so I don't need an elevator pitch anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
I let Natalie do that. It's just some about some robots in space. I don't know.
Is it a fiction? I'm assuming it's a fictional planet. It never says the planet, does it?
It's super cute.
No, yeah, it's like fictional. I guess it's kind of based on Mars.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Or it's a rocky world. So yeah, it's fictional.
And rocks are really interesting, and they're super fun.
In this book, they are, yeah.
So I learned stuff reading it. I actually did, and I'm like,
don't. There is educational stuff in there, but don't tell kids, please.
Yeah, don't get offended that you are going to learn something.
Fun science facts, little boxes, and
yeah, I like that.
And in the back, there's stuff on some real rovers.
Cool.
Some actual photos.
Yeah, I love that part when you squeeze the photos in there, and I'm like, oh, it actually looks like that. That was pretty cool.
I also know I saw what you did. This is off topic, but I saw what you did at your book launch or one of your book signings where you had a dry erase board, or was it and you put the different shapes for that you could make your own rover.
Right. Well, that's from.
And do you have that in the back of the book too?
Yeah, he does. The last page.
I think that's brilliant. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So kids got to It was at the Barnes & Noble launch, and I just put up a whiteboard and let kids kind of draw their own little rovers. It was fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's very cool. I love how you sprinkle the humor in it. It made me chuckle a couple times, and then the sciencey stuff that goes in there, but it's not like, here, learn this. Like you didn't even notice that you're picking up some knowledge as you're reading, a fun and fantastical adventure for these robots. So that's pretty cool. I had no idea about some of this stuff.
Okay, let's go back to what you first said. Sorry.
No, and I'm looking at it, and the robots are so cute, and the color's beautiful, Paulina. It's so I noticed as I was reading, I was like, oh wait, now we're in a different color scheme of the pages, and I noticed when I got to the yellow part, I'm like, oh, I feel like happy, and I'm sure this was all intentional, the emotion. And I absolutely love the page where the photograph of the galaxy is in the front with the illustrated rocket.
Oh
That's
yeah, I
there you
love
go, you're
that
holding
one.
it up. I love that. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's yeah, I use NASA photographs, and then at the end, not to spoil the end, but yeah. So there's like,
Oh,
so those are Hubble images.
oh,
I think.
cool. Very
So
cool.
even in Beep and Bob, I use like it's much harder to see, but I use little like an actual part of the moon shot or something, in some of the illustrations. In fact, and I'll talk later about the book I'm doing now. I'm doing a picture book that's all like using like NASA photographs and all that, and like drawing over them. Um, so yeah, so there are some actual like photographs in there.
Yeah,
Just a few.
That's cool.
yeah, I'm excited about the next project. I heard a little about it, and I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to that one.
Well,
Um,
okay, so how did you two,
yeah, let's how did this come
how did
together?
this happen? Yeah, how did this?
Okay, so
how did-
so this so I wrote this. Actually, it was inspired. I remember, kids always ask where you get your ideas and all that, and it's it's kind of amorphous to, but I do know the exact moment I got the idea. It was February 2019. I was reading breakfast. I was reading the Kids Post and the Washington Post, and it mentioned that the Opportunity rover, which was a real rover that landed in I think 2004, Spirit and Opportunity. I'm kind of a geek. You can even see like that red thing back there. That's a shot of Mars from from Spirit.
Cool.
Oh,
They were both supposed to last about 90 days. And Spirit ended up lasting like 5 years, and then Opportunity lasted about 15 years,
wow.
like on Mars.
Oh wow.
But then finally, with enough dust storms and all that kind of stuff, it got buried or whatever. And I think NASA tried about 1,000 times to reestablish contact, but they lost. They gave up or whatever. And at that point, they considered it dead. They declared Opportunity dead, is what they do, like when the mission's over. And so with Beep and Bob, I was just kind of done with that for the moment because my editor left, and I didn't think there were going to be any more. And I was, searching for new ideas. And the moment I read that, I'm like, oh, my next two characters, wait, little rovers. Like it was so obvious to me, and it's going to be a graphic novel. Like I just saw it, like I saw it instantly, and actually wrote the first draft pretty quickly. Like I think that weekend, like the first, I do everything. I do all the writing first. I know this is probably different for like a lot of illustrators and cartoonists, but I do all the writing, like all the text first. So that, then I started putting it together. Anyway, so then when this sold, I think it was finally announced in March of 2020. Remember March of 2020?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh.
at that point,
Something happened that time.
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Vaguely.
thought, well, we all had other concerns, and
Yeah.
who knew? Like, if this had never come out, I wouldn't have been surprised. Like, who knew how the world was going to go at that point? So, but anyway, I was contracted to do it. So somehow, with my publisher, we were doing it. I was writing it. They were editing it. It's kind of a blur. And I think it got bumped back maybe like 6 months, and then in that summer, what was it, 21, we went back in spring. We went back live to school, like teaching. I've been teaching on Zoom. Then we were back in the classroom, and so that summer was coming up. So the deadline, I think by like September or so, they wanted the final illustrations. I think at that point I'd given them the rough illustrations, and they were editing. And I knew that summer was the final illustration. So, okay, even though the world, and we were still in a really weird place, I knew I had to work that summer. So also, like a lot of people, especially men, I hadn't gone to the doctor in a while, because COVID, and I didn't want to go. So I went to the doctor for like just a checkup after like 2.5 years or something. And they found that I'd had a heart murmur before, but it had gotten a lot worse. And I guess there was one of my heart valves was malfunctioning. So, they had to have surgery, and because it was too much blood was back flowing into one of the chambers, and it was it was expanding my heart. So my heart was too big.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So like the Grinch, you know, I seem very
What a
big-hearted, but I
story.
was too big-hearted. I had to I had to have it shrink a little back. So and so I talk about adulting. I had to like get on the phone. Okay, I'll come in June 30th. You know, I had to like schedule. I never had any kind of surgery before, let alone a major surgery. So I scheduled it for June 30th, not knowing what the other side was going to look like, if anything, and also knowing that in a few months after that, I had to hand in all the final illustrations, which I hadn't done, and that
Did you
included
tell the
coloring.
editor? Did
Huh?
you tell them that you're going into surgery and there might be some delay after?
Yeah, they gave me like a month.
Okay.
They kicked me back a month.
Oh
You got a
my.
month to shrink your heart, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I'm sure they would have given me more time, but then the book would have just, you know, been delayed more. So, so at that point, I'd been toying with the idea of like getting a colorist, since I know like a lot of comics, you know, traditionally like comic books and stuff are, there's a separate writer, there's a separate penciler, there's a separate inker, there's a letterer, there's a colorist. So it used to be more of kind of a group effort. In these days of kind of kids graphic novels, I think the most common thing is either there to be like a separate writer and illustrator and or colorist. I mean, sometimes someone does all three, sometimes two or whatever, but I'm like, oh, I can't. Okay, maybe I'll be well enough to like do the final illustrations, but there's no way I can do all the color. Help, what do I do? So I maybe reached out to some friends on Facebook, and I reached out to Natalie, and she said, oh, here, she gave me Paulina's contact, and I went to her website, and I go, wow, this is like beautiful work. Like, I loved her work. So I think, I don't know, Natalie gave me your address or something. So I think I just, I mean, there were a few people I was talking to. I think I maybe did I have you do some samples? You know, that time again, it's kind of like a blur to me, but I think I went into surgery knowing that, that at least I had a colorist. So I wouldn't have that to do when I got out.
So Paulina, fill in the blanks that Jonathan cannot remember from that time. Did you have to do
Yeah.
that? When...
Yeah, I remember Natalie, I think, Natalie made an email, you know, to connect us. And from there we had a separate, you know, email. And then, yeah, I was going to be hired. He was going to hire me. So I have nothing to do with the editors or anything. So I would only work with Jonathan.
Oh,
okay.
So that's how we started going back and forth with the colors, and I had this idea in my mind, but then he sent me like, no, this is for kids, so it has to be more colorful, because I was doing kind of, I don't know, it was more darker palette. So he sent me, what's the name of this comic book with the dog?
Oh, Dogman?
Yeah, Dogman. And he's got bright colors, and then Jonathan sent me also ideas with colors. So that's how we started shaping everything, and then he sent the sample to the editor and they approved. So then that's how everything came together. And yeah, because it was throughout the day, the story goes throughout the day, so it ends up in the dawn. So yeah, I never thought of doing a super bright, colorful comic book, because I've never done kids comics. But it was so much fun to break away from my ideas, and that's how it all came to be.
Yeah, but you have a lot of bright. I mean, you used a lot of bright and pastel-y colors and stuff on your sample illustrations on your website. So to me, it wasn't a stretch that you would be able to do this well. I think that the thing that opened the door when I said like not the sky or whatever in every panel can shift. Like it doesn't have to be the same color every time.
Yeah.
Everything, look, it can change. You know, as long as it just kind of the mood and the tone and everything read kind of like in Dogman or in a lot of kids comics.
Yeah.
I think that really opened up Natalie, and then she just had seemed like you just had a lot of fun. I mean, after that, we didn't really talk
No.
palette or anything. Like I just loved what she did, and that was it.
See, we just have to tweak a few things like the Rockman.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to switch a bit the colors there. But yeah, it was super smooth. Like Jonathan just told me, yeah, we have these deadlines. We have to have 50 pages by August or something, and then the final 50 pages by October. So yeah, it was super smooth. I think we worked really nice. Like he would hand me the final drawings, and I would just color them. And we had a bit of a problem at the beginning with the sizes. Like I wasn't sure which size, but then in the end, yeah, we did it. So
And
Well,
was
that
it
was also
digital?
from the publisher too, like trying to get, getting all the exact specs and everything. And once they decide something, and then it comes, filters down. So yeah, once you had the specs, and we just finished book 2 together. So, it was the same specs and everything for that. So
Cool.
that'll be out next year.
Cool. Oh, cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool. That's
And
congratulations.
that has a different, each, there's going to be at least 3 books. Each one has a different, setting. So this one was Rocky World. The next one is an all water world. So the
Oh,
Oh,
the color palette,
fun.
the characters
fun.
stay the same. These 2 stay the same, but
Yeah.
the other new alien characters and the setting changes.
I like that dynamic that they have, the 2 characters. It's funny. I like that. I love when someone can inject humor into everything that's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I even though these are kind of like sci-fi or space, I think of myself primarily as a humorist. Like I write buddy comedies.
Yeah, guess so.
about-
Yeah.
So that's how I think of it. I know it looks like, oh, they're science fiction kids books. I think of them primarily as buddy comedies, and that happen to
good way
have
of putting it.
science stuff. And,
Yeah. Yeah. It works.
Paulina, you worked all digital for the samples and everything that you sent
yes,
back?
it was 100% digital. Yeah.
And what programs do you use?
See, so I used Photoshop, which is
Okay.
the one that I really love and easy for me. I know it. So
I know, Jonathan, you don't use Photoshop, right? You use
Sketchbook.
Oh, okay, Sketchbook. That was it. I kept wanting to say Clip
Well,
Studio.
Yeah, so remember I said when I was working on, when I was developing, learning about digital and somehow I was trying different programs, and Sketchbook, I don't know, for some reason I found it really easy, and I found it could do everything I wanted for that book. So that became kind of my go-to, and yeah, so Photoshop just is so complicated. So when I sent her the file, one thing I didn't realize though until like partway through it. So when I sent her the files from Sketchbook, when they convert to, you can save them as, or no, I didn't save them as PSD files. I sent them as TIFF files,
Mhm.
and for some reason Sketchbook compresses all the layers. So when she got them, they were just one layer, which I didn't realize at first. I thought she had all the layers, and I guess obviously you didn't need them all for the, might have been a little easier, but so she just had like one black and white layer, and then she colored it.
yeah,
So
we figured it out. It took us a while, but we figured it out.
It will be much smoother on the next one, right?
Yeah.
And when you were submitting the,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, for some reason my computer is not charging. I think I'm gonna have to switch to.
That's fine. She's switching.
That was great.
Good
I'm
thing
leaving
she
it.
caught
I'm
that.
leaving it in.
Yes, at least she got to say it. We are.
Oh,
Maybe it
that's
wasn't
fine.
plugged in right.
Well, I can ask you this next question until she comes back, because this is on you, how you submitted the project to the editors. How actually how Natalie submitted the project to the editor. Did you have your pagination, your panels, kind of how far along did you have it or set up so that they knew exactly what they're getting?
Yeah.
Well, obviously a lot of people are, graphic novels are pretty hot, so a lot of people want to know how to submit. And of course there are no firm rules for any of this stuff. But the way I did it, which is probably kind of a little typical, if you're the writer and the illustrator, we had to submit a full manuscript. So I don't know, 4,000 words, I can't remember. So, a full, edited, polished, really good manuscript. And then I think I did 10 or 12 sample pages. I mean, I think I just did the beginning or whatever, but
did you jump around or
I just did. I think I just did
pages?
like the first, and I've submitted some other graphic novels. I usually just do like the first 12 pages or something.
Okay.
Did you color them, or were they in black and white, or?
They were. I was kind of using as my model at that point, like Baby Mouse and those things where it has like one, like the black and white with one tone.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't even conceive of them as full color because, well, I don't know that, hadn't sold yet. I didn't know what the publishers have ideas of how they want to do it. Hello again.
Hi.
Sorry.
Welcome back, Paulina.
On my phone now,
That's fine.
but I'm back.
So she was just asking how this was submitted, and I was saying, a finished manuscript and then about 12 finished sample pages, but nothing beyond that. Like I didn't, no page number, nothing, just about 12 pages. And at that point, they just had one tone of color. I think it was like blue or something, shades of blue or something. So it wasn't even conceived as a full color, because obviously it's a little presumptuous, I guess, unless it needs to be in full color. It's more expensive to do full color. So
yeah, you don't know what the publishers might want, if they're gonna want to keep it monotone or full color.
I think since then, when we've submitted, we've submitted one or two more graphic novel ideas, and those I have done the 12 pages in full color.
So then did you request once it got purchased, did you say, yeah, let's do full color, or the editor said, hey, do you want to do full color?
I think that was their call.
Their call. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad too.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, the color really makes it, the color.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It made me happy reading it because it's a fun.
So it would have been a lot different if it was just the, one tone.
Yeah, especially with something so sciencey and in a rock world, and it could have been.
It could have been very
sterile.
drab.
Yeah,
I thought it was, when I saw he was landing on a rock planet that was red rock. I was like, how is this gonna? But it's so cheerful.
But
like,
see, again, even just like real rocks are different colors, obviously. So
yeah, true.
It's not like since it's not Mars or whatever. I'm not limited to like the reality of Mars or whatever. So
it's very cheerful.
For book 2, which I think is super fun too. The color makes it too. It's just an explosion of different creatures and really bright colors, and it's so much fun. I'm really excited for the second one.
Yeah, me too. I like doing this. I like the second in a series because the first are always done not even, you have no idea it's going to be published or anything. It's just like you're just, but the second one, or at least in my case, like they sign up, a few books at once or whatever. So like I know, oh, this one's for publication, or I know. So yeah, so second books are kind of fun for some reason.
Well, and you probably figure a lot more out you're figuring everything out in the first book, and then when you get to the second book, you have more of your everything streamlined, and
you already established a relationship between the two characters, so that's cool.
So by the way, we're talking about like the science and stuff, but there's also a lot of art. I guess I would call these STEAM, science, technology, art, and math, because because the rock monster, or at least this one, he's like an artist. You can see he's like
Yeah.
do a sculpture, and then they invent music actually as a way to like help. So actually, there's science, art, and music.
Yeah, I
Wow.
did like how you mentioned which minerals, materials they use to do cave paintings, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a nice tie to something different than where we were
Artsy.
going with, artsy a
Yeah.
little bit, and more history as opposed to so much into the future. Like, I don't know, science seems future, and the cave paintings, in the past. So that was kind of cool that you tied them together in a smooth way that it didn't seem clunky, but and it was pretty cool.
I also really, really loved, because I didn't know all these rovers had a name. So they have the actual NASA rovers have names, and they have different shapes, and you think they have personalities as well. So at the end, all the actual facts, it's really nice to see.
I like
Yeah.
that. So going back to how you submitted and working with the editor, did you find a lot of surprises with this publisher, or was it a smooth transition from beginning
Especially
to
doing
end?
your first graphic novel. No.
Yeah.
I guess it was pretty smooth. But my publisher is Kids Can Press out of Toronto for this one. You see the
Yeah.
That's
It's
good.
Can Press.
shout out to them. No, they've been great. No big surprises. Probably the thing that probably changed the most actually was at first the science facts were all kind of back matter, and they wanted it more interspersed with the main story.
Oh.
So,
Oh, that's actually so good.
I like that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too, yeah.
but that was, except for, obviously there were changes, but I think that's the biggest change I can remember. And they were very good. They loved the color and everything. So, no, pretty smooth.
Do you think your experience with comics helped you in planning out the graphic novel and creating the graphic novel?
Yeah. I mean, you mean experience reading comic, or yeah?
Well, you said you were creating comics early on.
Right. That was more like 4-panel. That was more traditional, like kind of newspaper.
Mhm.
Those were strips.
Yeah.
So this is like full page. No, I had a lot of fun with. I was telling kids. I was doing a talk, and I was telling kids, like, I asked them, what's the correct number of boxes per page? And they're like, 6, 4, 5. And it's a trick question because, of course, it's like
Whatever you need.
1, it can be 50. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I start with it, and I tell them I start with a template of like 6, and I think there's only one page that ended up with 6 boxes. So I like to have like a lot of fun. Like a lot of mine just spill over into the bleed.
I love that. Yeah.
So I don't think there's.
I really love when you extend the background across both pages and then have panels on top of that with the background behind it. That looks really cool.
Right. And again, there's no. My publisher was fine with it. I mean, there's no rules in comics really. So yeah, have fun, kids.
Cool.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing and social media. And yeah, Sunny, you want to jump on this question?
Yeah, well, I just know, are you on social media? I looked for Jonathan. I looked for you on Twitter and Instagram. You're not on either of those. Are you on?
No,
you're on Facebook.
I'm one of those recluse types. Facebook, and we're Facebook friends and stuff. But yeah, no, social media is kind of my Achilles heel. I don't know. I don't.
No, it's totally fine. You have a website. I think.
I also think that the book speaks for itself. There are lots of really great illustrators or authors that don't have or are not active, and yet their work sells like crazy. Like, I don't know, like Shantan is not actively, I mean, they post stuff. I don't know if it's him or someone else, but they don't have to have all these Twitter or so. I guess the work speaks for itself in some cases.
What are you on?
I'm on everything.
Look at
I'm
you,
on Twitter. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah,
But yeah,
wherever.
because I like it, but I also think it takes so much time. Like, I wish
Yeah.
I would, spend more time creating instead of trying to show the world.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Yeah, I mean, we could talk for an hour just about marketing and the pressures of like who's
I want to
responsible
know
these
about
days, and
marketing.
is it if you put it all on your shoulders that I'm the author illustrator, but I'm also the marketer, I'm the publicist, I'm everything. And if the
Mhm.
book doesn't do so great, do you have to take on the failure? Like, how much can you do as a person? Like,
Yeah, I
if
agree.
if I went, you have to have a mental stamina for it too. Like, so even if I had put an hour or two every day into like Twitter and all those things, um, like how does it move the needle? Like some people, and I'm sure the thing is it's unanswerable. Like for some people, it probably sells. They can probably move a lot more books, or some probably none, or who knows? And since you don't know, it's that unknown which forces everyone to feel like they have to do it, and you have to be
Yeah.
on everything. And now I have to be on TikTok. Now I have to be on all these
Yeah.
things, and I don't know. I just can't. I kind of draw the line. I might join Instagram. I don't know, but I kind of, yeah, my sales might ultimately suffer. I don't know, but I think we all have to draw the line somewhere.
I
This
think
is
you
very
should do.
refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I think you should do what you're comfortable with. I don't think anyone should have to, especially because we have a lot of listeners who start this later in life and they're not on social media, or they don't have they don't want to learn it, and that's fine. I think you're a good example of how you don't have to if you don't want to.
I think as long as you do all these other things, like, I don't know, attend conferences and reach out in some other ways, you're going to be fine. But yeah, it just takes so much time.
You're very active in person though. Like you
Well, that's my marketing plan. I mean, I love to do school talks. If anyone,
Yeah.
if you know counties or whatever, I do school talks, I do conferences, I do book festivals. Like, I'll do everything. I like to do things in person. Here, I'll do it. I haven't done many of this like podcast stuff, but like actual in-person stuff. I think making the connection. School visits are the best because then you make a real connection with the kids, and I'm used to teaching, so I know how to do that. So that's my marketing plan.
Actually, yeah,
that's good.
When you said you're used to teaching, so you're comfortable in that environment, I'm gonna put some of my insecurities in there, because I will be doing, hopefully there will be some school visits, and I'm terrified of the idea of having to go in there. I love children and I do very well with my kids, my nephews, or what, niece and my niece, but like other people's children, I don't know, and I'll be like, my goodness, I don't know how to handle that. So I think that's a huge plus that you have, that you can connect with your readers, honestly, with your project.
Because they're not even on social media, or maybe they're on something I'm not on, or and I don't want to be on what they're on, so yeah, so I like doing the school visits is a lot of fun for me.
Cool. So we just have a few more. We're going to talk about, Paulina, what your projects are, what you're working on. If you're planning, I know you say you're working on writing as well, and maybe there'll be some books in the future for you, and then tie it together with the same question: how do you market yourself being in Mexico and here in the United States? How is that working? So because we can combine them all into one question.
Yeah, so right now I'm really polishing my writing skills, because it's well, as we all know, writing picture books is super different from writing anything else. And it's really specific, and it has sort of a formula. So I'm still, because English is my second language, so that's also kind of one of the biggest like I have to be on top of the game, and I've been taking a few online classes for writing picture books, and I'm trying to get a group for critiques. I was on the 12 by 12 last year. I was on 12 by 12 picture book challenge, which was great, but I think I didn't quite got the best of it, because you always think, oh yeah, I can write one picture book a month, but then life happens. So it's not as great as you thought. So yeah, I've been just going back and forth with Natalie with some ideas, and we are shaping those ideas. So yeah, I have a couple of books submitted, but it's just a matter of waiting. And if that doesn't work, then you just have to have more ideas on the go. So far I'm just waiting, but working on more ideas and books.
So this almost goes back to the social media. If it takes too long, if it's taking so much of your time that you're not able to do your next project, then that's probably not helping. So
Yeah,
that's good. I like that you're working on the next other stuff.
though I really love social media. I love Instagram, and I had a few they were kind of draw along with a friend.
Yeah, I did
So
it with you. That was so much fun,
yeah,
actually. I had never done that before.
social media helps me connect with my friends and more people, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky. It's tricky. Social media is tricky.
Especially like you made so many friends here in the United States. It has to be
Yeah.
online. Yeah, there's no other way.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And one question that we had, because everybody has lives, everybody has school, children, all of this, but Jonathan, you're also a teacher. So how do you kind of manage your time between working on the book, working as a teacher? You did mention that you work during the summer, but how do you handle like a job? I guess this is for anybody who has to like clock in from this time to this time and actually be out of their studio and then try to come home and work creatively, and what
Right.
works for
I mean,
you.
most authors and illustrators have day jobs, right? Or
Yeah,
or it's hard to, or in other words, it's hard to do writing and illustrating full time. I mean, teaching is good. Yeah, and teaching is exhausting. Don't get me wrong, but I have evenings, I have weekends, I have holidays, and I have summer, and so I don't know. I've managed to make it work. I mean, if I didn't have to teach, of course I'd have so much more time. But that's just life. I mean, I figure I don't have kids, by the way, so that's. I mean, you can have a day job and an art career or art, and then there's kids, and then there's, I guess, a social life. I figure you can probably do like 2 out of the 4.
You gotta pick your 2.
That is
like
true.
beyond that, I don't know how people do any 3 of the 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
I
Sunny
can
and I
just
have
manage to. I
no
don't have much of a
social
social life.
Yeah, we
I don't
don't.
have kids, so
We have
Yeah.
kids.
We have no social life. Sunny and I are work and kids.
yeah. So to do 3, I mean, that's even harder than.
Mhm.
That's very true. The same question for you, Paulina. How do you?
Yeah, well, just I have my best friend is Anna. She's also a picture book illustrator, and
cool.
we have these 40 like these working sessions together. So we connect
Oh.
through Zoom, and then we say, okay, 40 minutes, and then we work. Then we take 5 minutes off. And then so we do that often. Not right now. She's busy teaching as well, but that really helps us both to really be present. And we have these 40 minutes to work, so we cannot, like, yes, you can get distracted, but then you kind of wasted your 40 minutes. So it's like 40 minutes at a time, and then we kind of feel, and then we also have these every Friday we tell each other, okay, what's your tus objetivos, your
Objectives.
Yeah, your
objectives
goals. Yeah.
for next week, right? So then by the end of the week we say, okay, we did complete them or we didn't. And if we didn't, it means that we were doing other things. So we kind of help each other prioritize our time management and our objective.
That's awesome.
Does that sound familiar, Sunny?
Yeah.
This is that we have an illustrator critique group that we form with a few of friends on Zoom, and it is every Saturday, and it is our
Yeah.
hour. Oh, no, it turns into like 3 hours.
But we
Of
we don't work.
accountability.
Yeah, it's our
We
those
do,
are
we
accountability.
work.
We can, but it's
yeah.
not focused work time. We can if we want.
I actually look forward to it
Yeah.
because I know that for the time that we're going to be there, I'm going to be working and then just look up when we need to critique each other's work or whatever. It's like a critique and I need advice on this next move. How should I, do this, illustration or whatnot.
It
That's
also
really good.
it also it encourages you to finish something or get something completed before the meeting so that you can discuss it in the meeting. So it like gets us it motivates us to get things done during the week. Jonathan, do you have anything like that? Or do you have a writing critique group or not saying you have to, I'm just wondering, for
well, I mean, I have had critique groups. Right now we're a little inactive together, but no. I mean, I have a group that meets. We have a kidlit group that meets like once. We started resuming like once a month, like in Rockville, Bethesda area. Similar to one that happens over like in Arlington and Virginia. But it's not really a critique group. It's more just kind of like a social
to hang out.
Yeah.
I wish I could go to those. You guys are so far away. It's just not. I am way Southern Maryland, and I read about them. I'm like, I want to, but I can't. I guess we're gonna finish this. It's really being
Jonathan
lovely, but we
didn't.
go ahead.
Jonathan didn't get to talk about the projects he's working on.
Oh, the next projects. Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll do the final question that we have for both of you.
Final question. Oh,
yeah.
Next projects.
What's your next project?
Let's see. We just handed in book 2, so I guess I've written a draft of book 3. That hasn't even been edited yet, so I guess at some point I have to start illustrating book 3, and then hopefully if Paulina gets on board, maybe next summer we can do 3. But meanwhile, I mean, I'm actually on deadline this week for a picture book, so that's been taking like all my time, which is kind of like a nonfiction picture book. So remember, this. So persevere. So during the pandemic, so I had when we were teaching online, I had like a little thing called the Astro Club with some of my students, and this is the Perseverance is the latest rover to land on Mars. Like it was in 2021. But it carried a little surprise. When Ingenuity landed, it had this little drone underneath it that became the first object to fly on another planet.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I read about that in 2021. It's big news for a day or whatever. But what they hadn't really revealed, and I think until around the time it flew, is that underneath, like the little solar panel, I even have I'm a geek. I got a little model.
Oh my gosh! No way!
Cool.
You're holding.
The real one isn't that much bigger. The real one is only about 4 pounds. And so underneath it, attached, they have a piece of the Wright brothers wing cloth. The Wright flyer was it was covered in just this plain muslin. And when I learned that, I also knew, because I go to the Air and Space Museum here in DC, and Neil Armstrong took a piece of that cloth, the wing cloth, to the moon also. So I wrote a picture book kind of from the point of view of this piece of cloth that the Wright brothers just got from a Dayton department store in like around 1902. And at that point, muslin, that kind of muslin that they got was mostly used for women's undergarments or like underwear. So here this underwear cloth was used, was part of the first airplane, and then part of it went to the moon, and now part of it was part of the first flight on Mars. So I kind of wrote a picture book from the point of view, the history of flight, from the point of view of that cloth. And I mostly use historic photographs, but I kind of draw, over it and stuff.
So awesome. Now that drives me to, first of all, listening to the podcast, you might want to go on the video. Jonathan was holding up a model of the
Ingenuity. Yeah.
Ingenuity. Yeah. It's really cool. So when you put that, do I call it a rover? Is that a flying rover?
or a helicopter or
Heli-
Drone.
drone.
Okay. So when you put that in your current book, did you know that you were going to write? Did you do that on purpose? Like which one came first? You put them in this book,
Oh, in the graphic
and
novel,
then the
did you know
idea
you were
came.
gonna
Yeah, for the next
have the
book.
picture book?
I think that idea came first, and in the original draft of this, at this point, again, this is just like a little back matter. They were talking about their favorite rovers, and I think Rover was talking about Perseverance, and then actually, the truth is, Spec was his design was inspired by this rover called U2, which is a Chinese rover. But there aren't many pictures of it, and we couldn't get access. Like I couldn't get access to the photos. You know, the way that NASA gives permission. So I decided to change it because once this happened, I thought, oh well, we'll just do that instead, and then I can have like the first. Might be the first, you know, kids book that has like Ingenuity in it.
Cool.
That's cool.
So they kind of happened concurrently. I mean, this was just last year that it flew. It was like 2021.
The reason why I ask is because when I read your book, now your current book, I took a pause there. It seemed like a moment that kind of like you gave it importance, or I don't know. I stayed in that page for a bit, and I knew you were writing something else about the cloth, but I didn't know that it was related to this specific you know,
That
I'm reading-
image.
yeah, to that
Yeah.
page and that image. But it actually, like, I stayed there for an extra beat because it seemed important, like extra important. So now I was wondering, like, did you tie it together?
Yeah, it's not meant. The cloth isn't mentioned here, so
It's not, yeah.
No, it's separate. So that's a whole other. That story is in the picture book. Yeah.
Oh. All right. I think those are all, like, we covered pretty good our questions, and now we have. I hope that helped, you know, our listeners to figure out how two people work together in a graphic novel like this, and collaborate, yeah, and to make one awesome picture book. It was not a picture book, sorry, a graphic novel.
Graphic novel, yeah.
We have we want to end it with a question that, what advice would you give someone who's starting out? Like the best advice you can possibly give, or something that has helped you get here.
I think
Well, I think, yeah, giving advice is tricky because everybody has their own journey, and I had my own journey. But I would say, like, if I were to talk to my younger self, I would tell her to don't lose your sight, don't lose the target. Yeah, focus. Yeah. So, but that's just for me. But also I wouldn't have done so many amazing projects if I didn't detour. So that's why, yeah, giving advice is tricky because I don't know.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That, yeah.
No, I mean that's good. You know, I mean I'd give similar advice. You know, like you do detour. I mean, I guess I'd give two little pieces of advice. One would be, like you say, like be open, be like as open to possibilities, because nothing has worked as I planned it at all. Like I wanted to do this, and then I went into this, and then this genre, or this type of book, or like even specific events. Like when I do, like nothing, you know, you fantasize in your mind, like what's going to be like when my book is published. Before, nothing turns out exactly like you plan it. Nothing. So you just have to. The more open you are to possibilities, you know, the more I guess they'll happen. And the other big thing I'd say is really try to build your community. You know, whether it's online or in person or SEBWI, or you know, it's hard to do this alone, even though you are stuck, you know, at your desk a lot. You know, it feels like a solitary project, but it is collaborative, because even if whether you're working with a colorist or an illustrator or writer, I mean, you're always working with an editor and copy editor and art director and critique group, and so it is, you know, every book is a collaboration, and you just kind of need a community for support and for you know, sharing stuff, complaining, Nothing to complain about, but
Just venting.
venting.
Cool. Yeah, that's
So play well with others. Learn to play well with others.
And don't burn bridges.
Don't burn bridges. I
Don't
love
burn
that.
Jonathan
bridges,
had a
don't-
lot
It's a
of
pretty
advice.
small community. I mean, there's a lot of people in children's book, but it is a pretty like small. You eventually get connected with. Here we have we're three of us the same age. I mean, that's a little bit of it was partly a coincidence though. Like, I mean, I was connected to Paulina, but you guys are in Maryland, so I mean, that was our connection.
We're in
before
the
this.
same SCBWI region. Like we're in the same group.
Yeah.
Right.
We've
It's not
kind
like
of
Natalie put us
crossed
all together to do this. Or
paths.
anything.
Yeah.
You never know. We met once, once in person,
Yeah.
and since then we've been working together in projects, and we made
Yeah.
this thing, Illo Chat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, work with others. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah. It does. It takes more than a person, than one to
Definitely.
do awesome like this. Well, this was really fun. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on.
thank you.
We are so looking forward. Hope you're. Oh, I love that.
He's adorable.
I want one of those. Oh my.
So
You can only get the books, folks. You can get the books.
Yeah, it doesn't come with the book. Sorry.
I think you should look into plushies. I think plushies would
They're so
be-
so
went
pricey.
so well.
Yeah, I was thinking how do I get this? Lightning isn't going to strike twice. No one's going to make me another. I don't. How could I make a little speck or something? I don't know.
I think you
Like, is
could.
it-
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks so
Oh,
much.
okay. Sorry.
Bye.
Thank you, and bye. We will see you again soon.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. Thank you so much.
Good
Bye.
to see you all. Bye bye.
Bye bye.